stated that students from grades 3 through 11, the requirement is going to be that they take the ICA. And I'm going to switch this over to Dwayne because there's going to be some questions about this. And I think if he just shares it first, it might clear up some of those questions right off the bat with the knowledge that he has in terms of having an ICA for each grade.
I will, and I'm going to share my screen here, you guys, so bear with me just a second. You should be seeing a screen coming up, OPI page. It says Fall 2020 Interim Benchmark Assessments.
Yeah.
Is that okay? So when you look at this, the link right here, if some of you want to follow along in your own computer, I'm going to send this link where I'm at in chat. So you should see it come up in chat. That is just our regular OPI website. On the assessment page under the interms, what I did is I have had our IT group give us a tab labeled Fall 2020 Interim Benchmarks. This little site here is geared towards anything interims going into the fall of 2020. And just to give you, I know this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is what Carrie had provided for you as well, this link. So I think many of you hadn't had an opportunity to go through it. I also wanted to, at the bottom, you see a quick start video. I had a series of slides, which I also have here with me today, that I condensed down to try to make sure that everything is concise as possible. And so this quick start video is about 18 minutes. There is a scoring exercise on it. And the reason for that scoring exercise, as outlined in the video, is interim comprehensive assessments, the ICAs, are really they're a fixed form assessment, but they're very much a version of the summative assessment that's the end of year. So essentially what they are is retired test items from the summative assessments. And they're not computer adaptive like the summative would be, but they're fixed form, meaning it's just if you took it multiple times, you would have the same questions again. So hence with that fixed form version of your ICAs, there's a performance task tied to it as well. That performance task requires hand scoring, and it requires a local, whoever's administering it, your TA, to go in and hand score that. And that's why you see in this quick start video, everything can be completed along with the hand scoring exercises for both math and ELA in 30 minutes. The video is about 19 minutes long. And so that just kind of gives you an overview of that quick start video. And from here, we have a bunch of different resources that everybody can go to. And I'm going to point to two of them. The first one I'm going to point to is I'm going to open this slide deck that I have. That is essentially, this slide deck is the original version of what you see in that quick start video. So this slideshow here that you see, what I wanted to point out is I encourage everybody to focus on this ICA component as I'm attempting to highlight it here. So when you look at ICAs, which is what Carrie is referring to as using in the fall, and it is, even here in the assessment unit, that is our recommendation for districts using it in the fall, is to start off as early as you can using these ICAs. And one of the things with the ICAs is it is grade specific. So the interim comprehensive assessment goes from grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11th grade. So if you have a freshman, you can give them a 9th grade ICA. If you have a sophomore, you can give them a sophomore. And likewise, a junior, you can give them a junior level interim comprehensive assessment. So I wanted to point that out to be clear on what the interim comprehensive assessments offer. The other thing I wanted to point out is in this website that I sent you the link to, there's a guidance link here that says guidance to support remote teaching and learning, and that will take you to this website right here. And this website is designed for remote learning opportunities. If schools, the district you're in, if you're going to look at going remote or you're going like a blended version, offering interims remotely is going to be possible. If you recall, some of you if you implemented interims at the virtual learning last spring after the closures came in. Typically speaking, we have a secure browser on anything, any student, any computer where a student takes a Smarter Balance assessment, interim or a summative. And that secure browser has to be downloaded at the district level, and every other, it's pretty restrictive. And what we did is to make remote learning and remote administration of interims possible. What we did with our vendor, and it's Cambium, was we had that secure browser requirement lifted for the purposes of remote administration. So in other words, a student with a computer at home can take an interim. They do not need a secure browser. And the other thing, just to alleviate concerns, if you recall, if you've been involved with some kind of that, you have to go into TIDE, commonly known as the testing portal, where TIDE is, where the student lists are. The system test coordinator usually takes care of TIDE user roles and student lists. We get our student upload information, typically. We get that information from AIM, and it's uploaded from your local level, whether that's Infinite Campus or Power School. It's typically one of the two for you guys at the district level. And that usually doesn't settle itself out because of the school starting in it, with your district clerks inputting information. That doesn't settle out until about the first or second week of September. So what we wanted to do is to make interims available as soon as possible with the least amount of pain. So what we have done is we have taken last year's student data file, taken that, and we have upgraded. We've given every student an upgrade file. What that means is if they were in 5th grade last year, they're going to be in 6th grade. And we have put that file in. That file will be ready to review starting August 11th in TIDE. Interims will be available starting August 24th. All student settings that your system test coordinators in your district set for students with accommodations, or whether they were just universal supports, those will all be carried over from last year. So in essence, your student data file is going to be carried over from last year. The things that you, just as a heads up, you want to watch out for is if you have a new student enrolled, give us in the assessment unit a call. And we can make that, we can hardwire those kids in that night on those nightly update files until AIM as a whole starts stabilizing for the first week or two. The other thing that I just encourage you to do is there was a little bit of a trick when we upgraded 8th grade students into freshmen. Most districts, it was obvious where an 8th grader would go to high school. There are some districts out there across the state where there's some nuance as to which high school they attend, because there could be one of two. So we took the best guess on those specific cases. So that is why I encourage you talk to your system test coordinators starting August 11th and just go in and revisit, check the student data file. Make sure their students, your guys' students in the district are all in there. If they were in there last year, they're going to be in there now. Typically, it is the process. So that's your student data file. When you look at AIM, we also, because of security reasons and privacy reasons, we've always wiped out any TIDE user roles in the summer, usually about this time of year. What we have done this year, because of COVID and trying to expedite this process, we are rolling everything over. If you were a TIDE user last year, you have a TIDE user account this year. You just have to go in, you have to click and say, need a new password, which you typically do at the beginning of a school year, and you'll have a new password to go into. So those are things that we in the assessment unit have been doing to try to expedite the process, make life as easy for you as we can in making interims available starting August 24th. So that's kind of a rough breakdown. I mean, I know there's a lot more to it, but that's kind of a breakdown of where we are. Now, jumping back to this site I have up on the screen, if you are supporting any remote teaching and learning, this site as well is really a very helpful site because it allows you to look at different modes of what you can do with remote teaching. Is it synchronous teaching? What are you going to do with synchronous, where your students are there with you in real time, asynchronous, and different resources in how to administer interims, what you can use for assessment items. You can have the Content Explorer that teachers can use to tie it back to the standards. We also have an items website where if teachers really want to, they can go in and pick specific items, retired test items, and technically print them out on a PDF and have a student work on it that way. So that's a new feature that we have this year that teachers can just review, go through. There's the practice tests. And one of the biggest, from our perspective, and probably what you need to worry about from the admin perspective of administering interims, is student security as far as their passwords. If you have somebody remotely administering the interims, the students will need their SSID numbers. Now, those SSID numbers are their student ID numbers from the state level, so that they have all their information on it. So just to protect PII, the things to avoid doing are sending those out via an email or in a voicemail. They can be sent to students on a phone when it's just in person, when you talk to two people, and that's typically true for most PII. So basically, if it can be recorded or saved anywhere, the rule of thumb is be careful with that. That's the big, as far as having a district process and how you do that, and how that, making sure that those passwords get in the hands of students safely, and then once the students have them, they can keep them with them. So that's probably from your end as far as what that's going to look like for remote learning. That's a students' privacy, students' data protection is a priority.